Much like the incredible science by flat earthers, today we are going to take you through a scientific journey to discover what makes the ultimate EDC gaming handheld. We look at your opinions, my opinions, and loosely researched facts from websites and places. Are you ready? Let's go. So what is EDC? The AI overlords declare it as
EDC stands for Everyday Carry. It's the collection of items you carry daily, like your keys, wallet, phone, and other essentials. It's all about being prepared with practical, useful gear. Do you have a favorite EDC item?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because my favorite EDC item right now is this.
Interesting pick. What makes it your favorite?
Is this the brick hammer by Trimui. In other words, what the AI was saying, it's an urban survival kit. So an EDC gaming handheld is for those gaming emergencies. It has to be quick to the draw, durable, compact, and possibly useful in other ways. An element the AI never mentioned is design. EDC usually has to look cool, like him. Okay, now for some serious science. Numbers based on my highly valuable opinions. Each device was graded on a value out of 5 for a quick drawedness, not a made up word, durability, how compact it is, other uses because EDCs are usually multifunctional, and is it beautifully designed? From this highly researched table, we see that the hammer scored the highest at 23, with the RG34XX SP, the Pixel 2, and Miyoo Flip coming second and third place. The RG34XX SP is my personal favorite, as many of you know. It kind of poses the question, how valuable is the flippiness of the handheld in this kind of concept of everyday carry? The RG28XX is a great one thanks to its very compact form, but maybe it's too compact, I'm not sure. The Pixel 2 borders on being too small, but it's a one-handed gameplay fiend, and the metal design is lovely. Now, the Miyoo Flip actually has better controls, better firmware than something like the 34XX SP and actually the brick. It's very well-rounded, except for the fact that the build quality is quite poor. The Miyoo A30 introduces something very compact with a joystick, and we all need joy and sticks. And lastly, the V90S is almost a wild card in this list. A bare bones, well-constructed cheapo that has been vastly improved with the newly custom firmware. And I must mention that the hinge on this cheapo seems pretty damn good. Okay, the multi-purpose metric was kind of a joke. It's not super serious on this list. So let's remove that and see where we end up. Although the hammer did well here. On the spreadsheet, it says it was a music player, a hammer, paperweight, ambient RGB light, and ebook reader as its sort of multi-purpose abilities, which is impressive. And that's kind of more in line. I don't think the Miyoo Flip deserves a spot in the top 3. One metric I haven't included in my incredibly scientific and well-researched table is weight. This thing is a bit heavier than the rest, but if you're wearing flannel pants, don't bring the hammer. Now, to go back to the multi-purpose metric, someone did mention that it should be able to be used as a hammer, given its name. So I may or may not be doing that at the end of the video. Okay, now round up the 3. The hammer has some nice custom firmware options, while the Pixel 2 only has Rogue OS, which fixes a few things. The Pixel 2 is also metal and way more pocketable. The 34XX SP has quite a few custom firmwares and very good build quality, with the hinge flip factor giving it a boost in your personal rating if that's more your style. The flippiness also makes it self-protecting, which is actually a really big deal. The hammer gets a lot done well, great stock firmware, with some caveats which we'll talk about, with also some nice custom firmware options. Excellent design, and a lot of people really love the controls on the hammer. The quick draw abilities with its press and hold power off and auto-resuming the last game that you played is probably its biggest win. And now for your user comments.
Your user comments, they're better than the facts and figures of the scientists.
You guys pretty much made this video, so here we go. I took to YouTube because as most 21st century research projects are done, the most important metric is public opinion. Okay, so Pinsfir says, I want the select button on top left and menu button in the middle between select and start. Oh, they wanted like a switch. Start and select here and menu button here. And Pinsfir brings up a great point. My response was, honestly, I would usually shame you for being picky, but I agree. The menu in line with start and select is annoying. You're constantly having to do a little braille maneuver to make sure you're pressing the right button, which is a pain. So Jabink and Gustavo Vani said similar things. Jabink said, EDC at the end, actually a hammer, a nail with it, and then continue gaming on it to show how tough it really is. We'll see what we can do there. Obviously this one doubles as a hammer, Gustavo Vani said. The regular one, just a brick, duh. So he's saying this one is a hammer and the old brick was just a brick, duh. So more on the hammerness later. PayNoMind81 said how this compares to the RG34XX SP as an everyday carry. So PayNoMind brings up a good point that's close to mine. Okay. All right.
Bye.
Love you, baby. PayNoMind81 brings up a point that's close to my heart. So as you may know, the RG34XX SP has been my everyday carry for a month or two now. Sometimes I just pick it up to fondle. It's made with some great plastic, the shoulder buttons are decently dampened, the ribbing on the back gives it a retro vibe. I've softened the dome switches, which I have enjoyed immensely, and the fact that it has a 3x2 screen is perfect for a dedicated GBA handheld, which is my favorite retro system, and it's actually a really happy medium ratio for all gaming systems. The hammer, on the other hand, is a bit heavier, but if you like the metal touch, as I do, that feeling of the handheld will become part of the enjoyment. Just as the plastic of the RG34XX SP is, we have close to identical button feel on the two devices, a better power management system and auto resume on the hammer. The colors make it truly special, and that I think is a big part of EDC. But my only gripe, the RGB lights cannot be made to one singular color unless you use custom firmware. They're constantly changing and I just don't like that. I wish it would just be like one color that you can choose and be done with it. NextUI has some good improvements. Apparently it has a game switcher very similar to Onion OS. They've improved on the music playing ability. So there's a few things on NextUI which I'm installing after I filmed this video, so look out for that. In summary, PayNoMind81, as you can see from this Venn diagram that I've carefully put together, the only thing holding me back from switching to the hammer is that flippy screen. Handheld says, can it actually hammer? I freaking love my audience. Keaton Loveland says, someone mentioned that the shoulder buttons stay in better. I have the green one coming and I just really want to see it in person, but none of the reviewers are getting it. Can't wait to see it when it arrives. It's my favorite EDC. Yes, they do stay in better. They were much more easy to remove on the previous model. Final Fanatic 13 says, play all the versions of the game Hammer and Harry and give your opinions on which one should be the definitive edition to play on your Trimui brick hammer. I don't know, that's pretty cool. I think the SNES is the ultimate. The SNES is the official Hammering Harry game for the hammer. Let's say that fast. Shawnee D, welcome back to the channel. He's always around. Is it usable as an actual hammer? Yes. How does it taste? Like raw butternut. Like your mom's feet. Like stale farts. Will it stop a bullet if left in your left breast pocket? Yes, actually this is the official metal used in the flak jackets for the Punisher. Can it act as an MP3 player iPod replacement? Yes, with major caveats, and we're going to talk about that just now. Will it stick to the fridge? No. Not a lizard. Drop test comparison. Okay, I know they're joking, but how does it fare against the rest? The thing is, the RG34XXP wins because of the flippy doodad. The metal will take hits. Also, I think you're gonna be a little bit more, in South Africa we say heilig, like holy. You're gonna be a bit more precious, there we go, about this metal, because as soon as it gets a knock, it's gonna look horrible, whereas plastic is a bit more forgiving. Also, because the screen is exposed thanks to the flippy doodad, when you drop it, like just the wrong angle and this thing is toast. So, you know, my money is actually on the 34XXSP. I'm not gonna do a full drop because I haven't finished this video and I don't wanna break the screen, but yeah, my money's on the 34XXSP. Then Crystal is Cozy said, OMGGGGG, and I think, my theory is that she saw me and was like, wow, that guy is good looking. Metal Clash. You can use it as an MP3 and you can have MC Hammer tracks in it. Well, let me tell you, it took every bit of self-control not to make this a dedicated MC Hammer video. I was obsessed with that song when I was a kid. We knew all the lyrics.
It's hammer, go, hammer, MC Hammer, yo, hammer.
And no, I'm not going to do the MC Hammer rap. Anna Ray says, my main curiosity is how well does the brick hammer do Pico 8? It actually does it fairly well. The color and everything, the rendition is nice and bright on the screen, albeit a little bit small. I'll also leave a link to my website on how to set native Pico 8 up on here. It'll appear in your apps menu and you just start Pico 8 up there. Nemesis 1984 says, my vote goes to making a case for the ultimate EDC. Yes, that is what we are busy doing. Okay, minor to slightly major quirks. It is quite rattly for a device that seems so premium. That's quite a bit of rattle. The operating system, it feels like very disjointed and just a little bit ugly in my opinion. I've never liked the look of the operating system. Also, I have noticed intermittent shutdown, so it'll just restart. So, you know, the operating system has got a lot going for it, but it is a bit disjointed. And as I mentioned, my pet peeve are those RGB lights. You just can't customize them in terms of just set a color, you know, set the dimness and leave it. There are some presets and that's all you get, unless you switch to something like Next UI. And then we talked about the inline menu and start and select. Because the menu button is there and you naturally think select is usually on the end, that can cause just a little bit of a frustration in the beginning when you first get the device. And then we've got the ambiguous performance switch. I know this seems like a small thing, but it's actually quite irritating. I'm still not 100% convinced that I am correct, because in the menu, it shows this switch down and says performance switch, but I'm pretty sure the switch must be up for the performance mode to be on and down is the battery saver mode. So I'm not sure. I'm still not 100% sure. Confirm with me in the comments so that people can be sure of that. And then I set, and this again is probably because of the disjointed operating system, but I set this button for brightness, and I think it's got like 4 notches. So from lowest brightness to brightest brightness, and you press this button, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes I'll be in game and it just doesn't work. But in my test for the B-roll, it did happen to work, but intermittently it just stops working. And then background music just intermittently starts up. Like, so you will switch it off, you'll go into the settings and turn it off, and then either you'll restart the device or go into a game and come out again, and suddenly the background music is back. And it is lovely background music, but I don't want it there. A lot of people talk about the brick being a heat thing. You know, that's one of the reasons I think they put the metal backplate even on the normal brick over there. They put a metal backplate on over here. It does heat up, but because now we have an all metal device, the whole device heats up. And so you just feel it getting slightly warmer as you play. So not as annoying on here as the brick, unless you want your heat just to be localized in one spot. But yeah, I think it's better to have the heat dissipate throughout the device. Okay, now home runs, meaning, you know, things they did well. Design. Let's just take a moment here. Trimui have absolutely nailed the hammer. The brick hammer embossing on the front and the back and the side, the texture and color of the anodized metal, the matching plastic buttons, and the gentle glow of the RGB lights. It's difficult not to rate this as one of the prettiest small handhelds on the market. Then we got the controls. I'm not a huge fan of all clicky controls on a retro handheld, but they are nice. They're nice and responsive. They are a little clicky because they are dome switches, but I know a lot of people enjoy these buttons and these controls on the brick specifically. The screen is exceptional for this sort of device, clear, vibrant, and bright. It's a bit bright for low light scenes like playing at night. It has a press and hold shutdown function, a fast switch on and auto resume to the last game that you played, which I believe to be one of the most important features on these little handhelds, and not all of them get it right. Battery life seems to be okay. The sleep mode works well, and the fact that you can quickly power on and off to your game, this will save your battery a lot. And then that system-wide in-game menu, just like menu UI, it's just a little creature comfort that I personally enjoy. Having that menu that's been like kind of simplified for you to use on a daily basis, mostly just for the save states. It's easy access. Performance on this handheld is a mixed bag. You know, you're not going to get all your PSP going, N64, you're not going to get all of your N64 going. A few Sega Saturn games do play on here. I actually found that Dreamcast was quite good on here. Obviously, you're going to get all of PS1 and everything below that working. And then also to note, I mapped this left function button to switch between joystick and D-pad, and mostly it worked. I did find once in a while it wouldn't work, and then you have to restart the device. And then Portmasters is always a nice addition, and it works really well on this device. You can get some hard to emulate games playing. There are indie games like Apotris, Celeste, AM2R. You can enable the experimental ports to try some extra stuff like Balatro, even the 16:9 version of Celeste. Even some apps are available, and that's where I found the GMU music player to use this as a music player. One-handed gameplay? Yes. Crotch time! Yay! Obviously, very, very crotchable. Okay, now to get to the music player debacle. Now, it's just, they have a media player and I could not for the life of me get anything to play on it. And so I resorted to some research and I found that you can get the GMU music player on Portmaster. I did that. I downloaded the GMU music player. It shows up in the Portmaster part of your games menu. Then I just favorited that game and then it showed up in favorites. So now whenever I want to play music, I go to the favorite section, get my music player there and play music. GMU music player is a learning curve, but once you get it, it's fine. I do believe that Next UI is better, so I will test that out. But with the stock firmware, I was able to get Bluetooth headphones going, and then 3.5mm headphones as well. Now, connecting Bluetooth to these Linux devices seems like an easy thing, but it's not always. And so there aren't a lot of these cheaper devices. Well, this isn't super cheap, but a lot of these Linux devices that can do Bluetooth headphones. And so I wanted to make a slightly big deal of that because it is really nice to have one of these that do Bluetooth headphones, because now you can have it for your games and then obviously for playing music. So that's really nice. And just note that the Hammer doesn't have HDMI out. So even though I noticed some serious input delay with my Bluetooth controller, that point of data doesn't really mean anything because you can't use this on your TV anyway. Okay, so let's conclude my very scientific hypothesis. Is the Hammer the ultimate everyday carry gaming handheld? Well, my hypothesis said the following: quick to the draw, durable, compact, perform multiple tasks, and be stylish. I never mentioned price because there's no rule that says an everyday carry gaming handheld should be expensive or cheap, but I do feel that the reason the RG34XX SP became my EDC was because it is cheapish and it flips closed, which makes it self-protecting.
Because soap is soap. It's self-cleaning.
The Hammer is arguably better looking and better at being quick to the draw with a true auto resume and press to power off feature. It really makes a quantifiable scientific difference to your daily life. In conclusion then, the Trimui Hammer is indeed the ultimate everyday carry handheld gaming console due to its incredible style, robust firmware offerings for great day-to-day quality of life features, and the fact that you can do this. Science.